Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Harris. You can find me on Twitter at DanHarris80. It is Friday, so we're going to be doing the game-by-game previews with Kyle Yates in a minute. But first, as we always do, let's welcome in Dr. David Chao. You can find him on Twitter at ProFootballDoc. You can check out his great website at ProFootballDoc.com. Doc, thanks for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Yourself?
I'm not bad. I'm ready to finish out the season strong, and there's a lot. It's a big week for fantasy managers here, so let's jump into it. Surprise, surprise, Drew Brees is going to play this weekend. It didn't really sound like that was going to be the case earlier in the week, but now that he's here, big game against Kansas City, do you think that he's basically going to be as effective as he was before the injury, or should fantasy managers exercise a little bit of caution here?
Well, medically speaking, physically speaking, I think he can be as effective as before. Of course, I don't have a prediction in Sean Payton's creative mind what the split is going to be. Now that Taysom Hill's had some time under center, are there even more Taysom Hill packages and maybe Taysom Hill at quarterback? That I can't predict. I can't imagine Drew's going to have a lot of rust. He's missed 4 games. I do expect him to be fully effective and jump right back into it. Ribs heal pretty reliably. And even the lung, I've been saying that if push came to shove, he could have played last week. So this doesn't surprise me that he's playing this week. Drew always wants to go and play, and I have reasonable confidence on the medical side of his return and recovery.
All right. My guess is you don't have quite as much sort of optimism around Derek Carr, who suffered a groin injury last night. Looked pretty bad. I mean, for the fantasy season, there's only 1 week left, but just generally speaking, how long do you expect Derek Carr to be sidelined? I assume he's not going to be back next week.
Yeah, well, when it happened, it was pretty clearly a left adductor groin strain, and not trying to, I'm going to mention this just because this is a fantasy show. Mm-hmm. And an all-time fantasy great, by happenstance and coincidence, he lives near me in San Diego. Billy Volek was over watching the game. Mm-hmm. And I even discussed it with him. And I said, look, I don't think he's coming back this game or the season. And he agreed, because with a groin like that, first of all, you have to be in shotgun. It's hard to drop back. Second of all, as Billy pointed out, it's hard to open up and throw with your hips, which is what you need to do. And the fact that Derek Carr came in and wasn't even an emergency quarterback in the second half, right? I mean, he was in street clothes. I think it's pretty clear it's Marcus Mariota for week 16, 17. And if they're lucky enough to get help and make the playoffs, it's still going to be Mariota in the playoffs, I believe. This is not a 1-week injury.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that is what it looked like when it happened. But, Marcus Mariota did play well. So if you're a Raiders fan, you're holding out hope. At least you'll have that. And the rest of the skilled players still managed to have pretty decent games. How about Raheem Mostert here? At the time we're recording this, I have not seen whether or not he was able to practice on Friday and what his designation is going to be for the game. But he did return to practice on Thursday in a limited fashion with his ankle injury. So if he does go, it's a great matchup against Dallas, but do you think he's going to be able to be effective?
Well, I mean, lingering effects of the high ankle, which is not unusual, and my anticipation for Friday's injury report will be limited practice and then questionable, right? I mean, that's what we're expecting. I would expect him to play, but the question mark is, depending on how he feels, who's getting the majority of the carries? Is it him? Is it Jeff Wilson Jr.? Does Tevin Coleman somehow get back into the mix? That's the unpredictable side. But I do believe that he will play, and obviously your decision-making will have to go from there.
Yeah, hopefully it turns out better than for fantasy managers who played Keenan Allen last night, who obviously started him, and then we're left with very little production. How about Daniel Jones here? He's officially questionable for this game. He's dealing with both hamstring, injury. He's got a lot of stuff going on, ankle, hamstring. What do we think? Do we think he's going to suit up? If so, is he going to be close enough to 100%? A lot of his value comes from rushing, so I think fantasy managers are a little worried there.
Absolutely, but you mentioned Keenan Allen, and on Twitter and at the website, I said, look, Keenan Allen, even if he plays, based on how he looked on his last play the week before, isn't going to be able to do a lot. Right. And unfortunately, he didn't. And that's what, as you say, what we try and give you at ProFootballDoc.com. We don't give you injury reporting We give you injury analysis, and that's the fundamental difference. And look, good on Keenan to play. Obviously, he got 1 run and 1 target early, and that was about it. And that was too bad there. As far as Daniel Jones is concerned, I believe Daniel Jones will play. And I believe Daniel Jones will be more mobile this week than last week, even with the left ankle sprain that he got last week. The hamstring's going to be 1 week healthier. Is he going to run for 40 yards, streaking down the middle of the field for a touchdown? I doubt it. But last week he absorbed 6 sacks and had no rushes. I'm hoping he has maybe the same number of rushes as sacks this week. He's going to be a little bit better. And I think the Giants will play him. And as far as fantasy managers' decisions, it all comes down to who else you got, right?
Yeah.
What your options are.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So let's talk about a couple of guys who we know, or at least with Antonio Gibson, suspect, since he's doubtful, not going to play this week. Alex Smith already been ruled out with the calf, Gibson with the toe. So look, next week against Carolina, if Gibson at least is able to return, that would be a huge boon to fantasy managers. What do we expect about both of these guys, whether they'll be able to return next week?
I don't know that I would hold my breath on either one of those, and here is why. A turf toe is pretty significant for a running back, and, look, if he makes good progress, he's doubtful this week. Great progress would be questionable next week, but then again, how effective, right? That would be great progress. That's why I said last week that Gibson would be more likely out this week. Would more likely be out for the rest of the season than play week 15, right? And it looks like he's out again here. Alex Smith, here's his issue. The Washington football team wants him to play. They clearly prefer him over Haskins. But if you go to my Twitter timeline, you'll see video that I made on Monday as part of the podcast that explains it. The brace, why it helps Alex Smith's foot drop, but where it hurts a calf strain. And why a calf strain is such a big deal for Alex, because he's already lost a lot of calf muscle from the previous injury and infection. He's not going to lose a limb if he tries to play, but the effectiveness and the ability to be mobile and protect himself is severely hampered on Alex, much more than anyone else with a standard calf strain, and we explain why. So it will be iffy again next week for Alex Smith.
All right, let's finish up with one additional calf strain or contusion or whatever it's called, and that's Ezekiel Elliott. He did play last week. The coaching staff has described it as worse this, coming into this week, and yet there still is optimism that he's going to play. Assuming he does play, how effective is he going to be able to be on this thing?
Yeah, obviously Tony Pollard's been playing well. Look, assuming he does play, I think there'll probably be more of a split in carries, but, the Cowboys are mathematically, I think, still in it, and that's why there's emphasis to maybe play him. Otherwise, I think he would just get shut down. It's kind of that time of the year, and it's been that kind of year for the Cowboys. So, once again, who else do you have? I think Zeke always tries to play through. He's got a couple days before they play the 49ers, host the 49ers, but we'll have to see, even if he plays, how many touches he's going to get.
All right, Doc, as always, thanks so much for the information. Just remind everybody where they can check out more of you and your work.
Pro Football Doc on Twitter and profootballdoc.com. We're no credit card free, and check out the information and field view stuff and the videos.
All right, so now we're going to go, as we always do on Friday here, and turn to Dan and Kyle in the morning, where we'll break down every single game that's going to be played this weekend. All right, guys, it is time for Dan and Kyle in the morning. What's up, Yates? How are you on this fine Friday morning?
I'm good, man. We are a week away from Christmas, and that is just such a good feeling. We are in week 15 of the fantasy football playoffs. Man, it is just a good time to be alive.
Yeah, it is crazy. I look forward to every day checking sort of our credit card bill and seeing 13 charges from Amazon, where I guess Santa shops. That's where he likes to go in our household. But yeah, Christmas is coming and fantasy playoffs are here, and it got off to a crazy start last night. We will talk about that in a bit, including how much Yates was completely just tripping over trying to figure out where to rank Keenan Allen, and we all were. But that was quite a game to get us off to a decent start. So you guys know the drill here. We are going to go through every single game, and we have 15 games to get through, plus the recap. So we are going to go at lightning speed. But first, I want to remind you guys about the My Primer feature. I don't know if you know about this. It is insane. You know the primer. Tags destroys it every single week, right up on basically every fantasy relevant player in every single game. If you have your teams imported into my playbook, you can now go to fantasypros.com/myprimer, and you can see the write-up in the primer for just the players in your fantasy league. It's crazy. If you have multiple leagues, you can click multi-league mode, and it's going to separate it out by league. It is a feature we are crazy excited about. It is incredibly helpful. All at fantasypros.com/myprimer. Yates, usual deal. We'll start with the accuracy challenge. You guys know what this is. fantasypros.com/challenge. Free to play. 10 fantasy points. Over-unders. Weekly prizes. The season-long prize, which you guys already know about. Sponsored by BetMGM. Grand prize is a 3-day, 2-night stay at an MGM resort property in Las Vegas and includes round-trip airfare. fantasypros.com/challenge. Yates, Kyler Murray against Philadelphia, 21.6 fantasy points.
Man, I want to go the over here, but I'm going to go under based on what we've seen from Kyler recently.
That's the correct answer. You want to go over, but you go under. That's exactly how I felt. Tom Brady against Atlanta, 19.7.
I like the over here. Not by much, but I will take the over here.
I'll stick with the under. I'm gonna be conservative here in this last week. Alvin Kamara, KC, 16.6 fantasy points.
If he's getting back to the 10 targets last week, if he's getting back to that type of workload, then I think we got to plug him back into our lineup. So yeah, I take the over. Excuse me. So yeah, I'll take the over here.
I hope you weren't taking him out of your lineups before that. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's fine. I'm still going under, but he is in my lineup, and I'm going to need a ginormous performance from him after Keenan Allen last night. Jonathan Taylor against Houston, 15.1. The correct answer is there is no line high enough where you would take the under. Is that right?
That is correct. He has number 1 overall running back upside this week.
I love it. Yep, I'm going over as well. Cam Akers against the Jets, 13.8.
I want to say under, but I'm going to take the over here slightly.
Yep, me too. How about Brandon Aiyuk against Dallas, 13 even?
Man, at this point, you just continue to take the over with Brandon Aiyuk, and this is about as good of a matchup as you find in all of fantasy football, so take the over here.
Yep, top 10 receiver for me this week. Terry McLaurin against Seattle, 12.7.
I'll take the over here slightly.
Yeah, this is a little tough. We don't necessarily know who the quarterback is. Not really sure it matters. I am going over as well. Mike Evans against Atlanta, 11.5.
Against Atlanta, I will take the over because I think he has an excellent chance of finding the end zone.
I will. Great matchup. Jarvis Landry against the Giants, 11.3.
With James Bradbury out, this opens things up for this offense, and he'll be facing Xavier McKinney in the slot, the rookie safety/corner. So I will take the over here.
I'm going to go under. I just don't know how much they're going to need to throw, but I don't have a problem with it necessarily. Finally, TJ Hockenson against Tennessee, 9.7.
With Chase Daniel most likely at quarterback, I'm concerned, but yet I think he keeps the ball towards the line of scrimmage, and that's where TJ Hockenson operates. I will take the over by the slightest of margins.
I have slightly under on this one based on Chase Daniel, but I agree it's going to be close. Let's recap the wild Thursday night game here. Chargers 30, Raiders 27. I mean, Yates, we can be honest about it. Ranking Keenan Allen was a gut-wrenching process.
It was terrible
for all of us. You, me, and Tags just kept going back and forth. What are you doing? Where are you going? What are you doing? In the end, he plays, I think it was only 24 snaps. He winds up with only 1 catch. Look, this is just a very quick message to people who are listening to this podcast. If you start Keenan Allen, I want you to know we are with you. Number one, we feel your pain, okay? I was talking to the guys last night. I'm in the semis in 3 leagues. I had Keenan Allen in all of them. My wide receiver core was weak. I started him in all of them. I am way behind 8 ball right now. But it doesn't matter. It is not over. You have plenty of time. There are crazy things that are going to happen. I bet Aaron Rodgers tomorrow night is going to throw 5 touchdown passes. None are going to go to my opponent's Devontae Adams, and it's going to be brilliant. So don't worry about it. Stick with us. Let's make you get some championships, overcome the Keenan Allen game. Justin Herbert, meanwhile, 314 yards, 2 touchdowns, plus the QB sneak touchdown at the end. Austin Eckler, just 79 total yards, and unfortunately, Kalen Ballage gets a touchdown. Hunter Henry, 5 for 65 in the touchdown. Jalen Guyton, 4 for 91. And Tyron Johnson, who everybody kind of moved off when both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen were active, 3 catches, 61 yards, and the touchdown. Yates, I'm not sure there's all that much to say here. They've got Denver next week. They've obviously got a little extra time to heal up. So if you survived this week in your matchup, you're starting Herbert, you're starting Eckler, you're starting Henry as you do every week. Are you going to trust Keenan Allen next week, assuming that he's basically not not supposed to be limited in on a rep count?
Yeah, it all depends on the practice reports next week and what we see. With Keenan Allen last night, it was just a gut feeling. It was just like, with Keenan Allen, as talented as he is, he's gotten you to this point. He's scored 6 out of the last 7 games heading into last night. He's been one of the most consistent fantasy contributors this entire season. And so it was, you start your studs, right? And I said, the advice I gave was go down swinging with your best players. And part of it, too, I was a little bit more optimistic, or at least willing to play Keenan Allen last night because it was the Thursday game and we had the time and opportunity to be able to adjust our strategy heading into this weekend. So if you were looking at some of these players that you have in the wide receiver 3 flex conversation that don't carry much upside, let's just say like a CeeDee Lamb, right? Like you have CeeDee Lamb and then MVS on your roster, right? Like that's a situation now where you say, okay, I know what I got from Keenan Allen. I know that CeeDee Lamb's not going to push me over the top. I need to swing for the fences. I'm going to take the upside play and go with someone like MVS. So that's why I was a little bit more willing. But as far as moving forward for Keenan Allen, it's all going to depend on what we see from the practice reports next week.
Yeah, I mean, my guess, if he was able to suit up for this one, and again, it seemed okay in the first half, and then he just barely played in the second half, even though he didn't get targeted. So it's like, if Keenan Allen and or Mike Williams play, I mean, are you willing to start either Guyton or Johnson next week against Denver?
Again, it's going to come down to Williams' practice reports and what his snap count looks like, right? I think we saw KJ Hill step into that Keenan Allen role, and he saw a few targets too. So, yeah, it really is going to depend on what we see from Williams next week. I'll be able to kind of digest that as we go throughout the week and then have an answer for you then.
Okay, for the Raiders, obviously Derek Carr leaves very early with, I assume it was a groin injury based on what it was, but it's significant, whatever it is. Chances are he's not going to play again in the regular season. Marcus Mariota steps in, plays extremely well, 226 yards, a touchdown, a really bad interception. He also adds on 88 rushing yards and the score. Look, I mean, if you're streaming QBs or you're in a 2-quarterback league, do you think Marcus Mariota is somebody you can pick up next weekend against Denver? Against Miami.
Against Miami is a little concerning, but yet at the same time, with his rushing ability, I think that you absolutely can look his way. He looks great. I mean, that first drive where he stepped in, he hit that long touchdown to Darren Waller, and I was just kind of like, what the hell just happened? Like, where was this Mariota for the past 3 years? So yeah, I think with Mariota moving forward, it's going to depend on what we see this week from the rest of the quarterbacks as to where exactly he's going to land in my rankings. But yet at the same time, he's definitely in the streaming conversation. That's for sure.
Yeah. So if you're struggling, and even if you survive in your championship, particularly in Superflex or 2-quarterback leagues, Mariota makes an okay pickup. Josh Jacobs, 114 total yards and a score, kind of fights through injury. Darren Waller, a monster again, 12 targets, 9 catches, 150 yards and the score. Nelson Aguilar, his very standard 8 targets, 4 catches, and feeling like he left a lot of points on the table. It is what it is with this point. I think with the Raiders, you're starting Waller, you're starting Jacobs, maybe Nelson Aguilar as a flex, and you just kind of move on if you survived, if that's next week, right? Is that basically it?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, Friday morning, you guys know what the deal is. We do not have the practice reports. Without question, if you listen to this podcast all season long, something is going to break in the middle of this, and we will go back and redo a game. But in the meantime, let's get to the Bills and Broncos. 2 Saturday games this week, Yates. Yeah, let's do football every day.
Yeah.
They're in Denver in this one. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley. You're definitely starting Allen. You're definitely starting Stephon Diggs. Is Cole Beasley in your starting lineup at this point? John Brown has already been ruled out.
Yeah. With John Brown being ruled out, that bumps Beasley back up, right? Where John Brown was registered to return designated to return from IR. And so that kind of put a damper on, our expectations for Cole Beasley heading into this week. But yet I've got him as a mid-range wide receiver 3 this week. I think he comes with a safe floor, and we've seen that he has some upside. So I think that you can absolutely plug him into your lineup.
Cole Beasley or another receiver in this game, Tim Patrick?
I'll probably go Beasley there.
Okay. How about Cole Beasley or Hollywood Brown, assuming that he comes off the COVID list and plays against Jacksonville?
I really don't think that he comes off the COVID list in time, but if he does, I would probably play Brown there.
That's interesting because I thought I saw a report, maybe I misread it, but the report I thought I saw was that he's a close contact. He hasn't tested positive, and that Sunday would be the day that if he doesn't have a positive test, he might be able to come back. Oh boy, well, we'll get to this game, but Drew Brees is going to start for the Saints on Sunday.
You literally just said we will get breaking news at some point during that.
It does not fail. Yates, if we ever want, we have a magic power, man.
Apparently.
We could just do a podcast and there will be breaking news. We haven't even gotten to that point. This is a very big surprise. We'll hold it to that game. That game got even more exciting coming in now, but we'll talk about that. Okay, so anyway, what about Gabriel Davis now? I mean, Davis has produced without John Brown in the lineup. Are you willing to start him against Denver, a group that basically their secondary has been pretty decimated over the last several weeks?
Yeah, they have practically no one playing corner. So I think, at this point with Davis, the way that he's looked, finding the end zone in 3 straight weeks off the top of my head. So I think that you can absolutely plug him into your lineup. If you, let's say that, you're like the situation, you have Keenan Allen, you're looking for that spark plug, someone who can absolutely make up for what Keenan Allen put up on the field in your, box score this past week, last night, then I think you can absolutely look at Davis as a high-end flex option that carries ridiculous upside.
All right, how about the usual question, are you starting a Bills running back?
No. Nope.
If you had to start a Bills running back, which one would you put in your lineup first?
Zach Moss, because of his involvement, quote unquote, at the goal line. But man, this is just this backfield is just gross. I
can't imagine you're in this. I say this, and it's probably unfair because I look at some of my lineups and they're terrible. But if you're at this point, it seems very unlikely that you've been relying on a Bills running back. So try to avoid them if you can. Would you rather start a Bills running back or Lynn Bowden?
I would, depending on, we'll get to that game. Depending on who's active, I'd probably go Bowden there.
Yeah, I would as well. For the Broncos, I mean, you're okay to start Melvin Gordon in this one, right? I mean, that Buffalo can be, vulnerable on the ground.
Yeah, I talked about him on the Wednesday podcast, saying that I really liked his opportunity here this week. Philip Lindsay has still been seeing significant work and splitting the workload in this backfield, but he's been ridiculously inefficient over the past couple weeks. Meanwhile, Melvin Gordon has been fantastic. So, yeah, I think you've got to just continue to plug in Gordon. I've got him as a mid-range running back 2 this week, and I think that he does carry some upside in this matchup. The Bills allowing 4.6 yards per rush attempt and 1.2 rushing touchdowns per game. So there's significant opportunity here for Gordon.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I don't feel like this is a very risky play. I think you can fire him up with confidence. And we mentioned Tim Patrick behind Cole Beasley, you said, but are you starting him as a wide receiver 3 here?
I don't know if I want to rely on him as a wide receiver 3. Last week was a really weird game because Denver was up big, so the target totals just weren't there. He was still able to find the end zone. So I think you can, as a high-end flex option, he's in that territory, Dan. Like, he's a low-end wide receiver 3 for me, high-end flex option.
That's fine. I don't want to. And, as much as I championed Tim Patrick this whole year, I don't really feel comfortable starting him, generally speaking. And we talked about he's probably going to draw white. But he is somebody who, again, like a borderline wide receiver 3, that's where he is generally for me. So if I have to start him, I'm okay with it, but I'm not going out of my way. How about Noah Fant here? Kind of burned everybody last week. Are you willing to fire him up against Buffalo?
Yeah, with that mystery illness, sounds like he's, appearing on track to play this week. So, yeah, I think you plug in Noah Fant as a low-end tight end 1. Again, just based on the tight end position, it's kind of gross in that range. So, yeah, I'm willing to plug in a talented tight end in Noah Fant.
Yeah. I've got him ranked 10th, so yeah, I'm with you too. All right, let's get to the Panthers against the Packers. Rank the Panthers wide receivers for me in this game now with DJ Moore on his way back.
Yeah, it's going to be Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, and DJ Moore. I've got Robbie Anderson at 19 right now. I've got Curtis Samuel at 27, and I've got DJ Moore at 32.
All right, so I have it Robbie Anderson number 1. I do have DJ Moore higher than Curtis Samuel, but it is not a huge difference between them. A little bit like the old, again, I use the analogy often, the old Steelers light. Like, I'm willing to start all of them. Robbie Anderson a little bit of a cut ahead, but really with DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel, all 3 of them are starters for me. And, I believe Christian McCaffrey is doubtful. He's not going to play. Yeah. So you are good to go with Mike Davis in a good matchup, right?
Oh, yeah, you got to start Mike Davis here up against Green Bay, who's the 2nd or 3rd easiest matchup in all of fantasy football for opposing running backs. Yeah, you start Mike Davis.
We know you are starting Devonta Adams, of course. We know you are starting Aaron Jones, of course, and you're starting Aaron Rodgers. Is Aaron Rodgers within your top 2 quarterbacks this week?
He is indeed.
Okay, very good. He's my number 2, but I am really struggling whether or not to put him ahead of Patrick Mahomes. And we're just starting Robert Tonyan at this point, right? That's it? No questions asked.
Yeah, 100%. You got to start him based on what he's been doing. Four touchdowns in 4 straight games. You continue to plug him in. I've got him at 4 on the week.
So do I. Bucks against the Falcons. So I apologize because I feel like I should know this. I thought Ronald Jones was ruled out, but has he actually been declared out now on the COVID list?
Based on my knowledge, I don't think that he was officially ruled out. However, I don't see a way that he plays.
I think that that's right. I don't think he's technically been officially ruled out, and yet I think that it's, unless I'm misunderstanding something, it's almost impossible for him to play. If he does play, you're starting him in this game, I assume, correct?
Yeah, as a mid-range to low-end running back too.
Yeah, it's not a great matchup versus Atlanta. Okay, now let's say he doesn't play. Are you starting Leonard Fournette in his stead?
Yeah, and this is with the assumption that Leonard Fournette is actually the running back who's active. Now, I think the percentage chance of that happening is like 80 to 85%, right? But there's always the possibility that Bruce Arians just goes, hey, we're going to plug in LaShawn McCoy and Keyshawn Vaughn. Right. So if it is, I'll just answer this. Like, if it is Leonard Fournette inactive and it's Keyshawn Vaughn and LaShawn McCoy, stay far away. Don't go anywhere near this backfield. If it is Leonard Fournette, I'm looking at him as a low-end running back too. He'll probably slide in at like RB23, RB24 for me, just because of the workload that he's going to see. But where with Atlanta, where you can attack them is out of the backfield as as a receiver. So I think Leonard Fournette, based on what we've seen this season with his drops, I don't know if they're going to lean on him that way.
Yeah, last I heard, it's that Arians suggested essentially that Fournette would get the first and second down classic running back role, where McCoy would factor in on third down, which probably makes sense given the aforementioned difficulties that Fournette has in the passing game. How about the wide receivers here for the Bucks? Rank them, all 3 of them: Evans, Godwin, and Antonio Brown.
Yeah, I've got Godwin 1 spot above, or I'm sorry, nope, I have Evans 1 spot above Godwin, and then I've got Antonio Brown several spots lower. So I've got Evans at 20, Chris Godwin at 21, and Antonio Brown at 35.
Wow, we are right there, man. I've got Evans at 21, Godwin at 22, and then Antonio Brown at 37. So yeah, you can get away. You can get away with starting Antonio Brown this week. I mean, he hasn't been overly efficient, but he is somebody who you can start. Gronk, the weird game, 2 targets, 2 yards, touchdown last week. Are you starting Gronk in this one against Atlanta?
Yeah, I think against Atlanta, you roll him out. Again, Tampa Bay only threw the ball 23 times last week, so I don't want to read a ton into that. I don't think that's going to happen here against Atlanta. So, yeah, we should see more targets for Gronk. And again, he's got as good a chance to find the end zone as any tight end in the NFL, so I will start him.
How about Brady?
Yeah, I'm plugging in Brady, the best matchup for opposing quarterbacks in all of fantasy football. You got to plug him into your lineup as a mid-range QB1 this week.
Tom Brady or Deshaun Watson against Indianapolis?
Yeah, I'll play Brady there.
So will I. Let's go to the Falcons. I'm assuming Julio is out here, right? We're not expecting him to play at this point, correct?
I'm not expecting him to play.
So Calvin Ridley is a must start, but it's true or false, other than Calvin Ridley, assuming Julio Jones sits, everyone else on Atlanta is a sit in this game.
I'm going to go false because I think you can get away with starting Russell Gage. Now, I'm not going to go too crazy with this. I've got Russell Gage right now at 37. Okay. So I still think that you can get away with starting him. But yeah, I'm not going to go all the way up and put him in my top 28 or anything like that. So it all depends on your other options. But yeah, if you are kind of in that, you're looking for a solid option, a safe option for your lineup, I think Russell Gage comes with some stability there.
Russell Gage or Chase Claypool?
I'll go Russell Gage there.
Russell Gage or Kiki QT?
I'll go Kiki QT.
Excellent. I'm just having you make my lineup decisions in my own league. I agree. I have Russell Gage at 39. So we're right there. He's basically a flex. Hurst, though, you're not starting Hayden Hurst at this point?
No, I'm not going anywhere near him. He's finished inside the top 40 tight ends just once over the past 4 weeks. So, yeah, you can't go near him.
That was a great stat, by the way. I forgot if you gave it on the podcast or the live stream, but that was a great stat, Yates. Way to go. Titans against the Lions. We know, of course, Derek Henry. We know, of course, A.J. Brown. Are you starting Corey Davis in a game that obviously, could get out of hand pretty quickly? We saw him not produce last week.
Yeah, that's the only concern with Corey Davis is that you see Derek Henry go for 4 touchdowns in this one. But I think, and Tannehill only throw the ball, 23 times, right? So I think that's the concern. However, when you're looking at the matchup, this is too good to pass up. Desmond Trufant on IR, Jeffrey Okudah out for the season. Detroit's defense doesn't stand a chance against Tennessee. They're 11.5-point favorites last time I checked. So you've got to plug in Corey Davis. I've got him at 18 this week.
So you're starting Corey Davis over the Bucs wide receivers?
Based on my rankings, yes.
Yeah, no, I am too. I'm not criticizing, man. I just want to get it out there so fantasy managers are going to say this guy or this guy. Now, we know if you're considering that. How about Ryan Tannehill here? We were talking about just now. Possibility that he throws maybe 20 passes at the same time. I can't get away from him in this game. Can you?
Nope, I can't either. I've got him at 7.
I'm at 7, exactly right. And I need to hear you say it, Yates. I am done considering starting Jonnu Smith.
Oh, I was done considering starting Jonnu Smith about 3 weeks ago.
I just really wanted to get it so John can clip it and use that as an intro to the pod next year. Okay, for the Lions, we're assuming Chase Daniel at this point, right? I mean, I'm not.
We have to.
Okay. All right, so with Chase Daniel, assuming that, how do you feel about DeAndre Swift?
I actually really like DeAndre Swift. If they are projected to be 11.5-point underdogs in this game, then you're looking at 35-plus pass attempts. And with Chase Daniel, he's never been the guy who will push it downfield consistently, right? He's going to keep it safe. He's going to keep it to his open receivers. And that, I think, means big games for DeAndre Swift out of the backfield as a receiver and TJ Hawkinson. I'm not excited about Marvin Jones this week. I'm not looking at Quintez Cephas, Danny Amendola. I'm not looking their way. So it's really DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson for me. And Marvin Jones is like a mid-range wide receiver 3. They're just hoping finds the end zone. But I think Swift should see the majority of the work on the ground, what little there will be, and then I think he can see 6+ targets in this one. So, yeah, I've got Swift at 14 in my running back rankings, which is ahead of ECR.
I like Swift more with Chase Daniel under center than I do with Matthew Stafford. I don't know if that's crazy. Not by a crazy amount. I was starting him either way. But I think basically exactly what you said. They're going to be behind. I think Chase Daniel will do whatever he can to not push the ball down the field. I think from his history, he likes targeting the running back. So I like Swift even more in this game without Matthew Stafford. Not a ton, but either way, you're starting them without question. And I don't disagree with anything else that you've said. Let's get to the 49ers visiting the Cowboys. So Raheem Mostert, I have not seen anything on the results of the MRI.
I still haven't either, no.
But he returned to a limited practice yesterday. There seems to be some optimism that he plays. Let's assume he plays here. If he does, are you starting him? Are you starting Jeff Wilson? Are you avoiding the backfield in basically the best matchup that you could ask for running back?
I would really prefer that Raheem Mostert be inactive for this game so that way we get a little bit of clarity here. If Raheem Mostert plays, I think that you have to start him as a low-end running back too, because you cannot get away from this matchup. Dallas allowing 5.1 yards per rush attempt on the season. You just cannot get away from either running back here. Now, if you have and Jeff Wilson, if Raheem Mostert plays, I think you can get away with him as a flex option. I'm not as excited about him. If Raheem Mostert sits, I think Jeff Wilson is a locked-in mid-range running back too. He has not been super efficient this season, but yet again, I just mentioned the stat that they're allowing 5.1 yards per rush attempt. On average, every single rush attempt, they're allowing 5.1, which is the worst in the NFL. So, yeah, I think you have to start Jeff Wilson here.
I completely agree with everything you said. Mostert is going to be a guy, and I really hope it's not a Keenan Allen situation where he's going to be out there and you're going to be like, I kind of have to start him, because you do in this matchup as an RB2. But I agree, if he's out, I have no hesitation about starting Jeff Wilson. I said, Yates, when we were doing the FantasyPros challenge, that I was starting Brandon Aiyuk as a top 10 wide receiver this week. Tell me I'm wrong.
He's pushing that range for me. He's right around there. So, yeah, I think you've got to start Brandon Aiyuk. Even if, have we gotten word, is it Nick Mullins is the official starter this week? I actually haven't checked on that.
Well, I haven't seen anything on it. As far as I know, they haven't named anyone. I'm still assuming that Mullins is gonna be the guy this week. Even if it's Beathard, I don't really care. They're gonna be creative enough to get him the ball.
Yeah, I agree. I was just about to say, even no matter who it is, I think you still got to start Brandon Aiyuk.
All right, for the Cowboys, look, Zeke is still battling injury, but sounds like he's gonna play. Are you starting him? If so,
I would really prefer to not. I've got him at 19. I could see the case for moving him even lower than that as we get towards Sunday. But, yeah, I think that just based on his assumed volume, I think you still got to start him.
Yeah, I've got him 20 right now and not feeling great about it. But, yeah, that's the thing. Just the volume isn't there for that many running backs. So, Again, you don't need to shoot. The one thing I will say is you don't need to, I say this often, you don't need to shoot for a home run on every single play. Sometimes just getting you the points is going to be enough to get you over the hump. For wide receivers, I mean, the only guy who I really want to start in this matchup, and that's being loose because I don't get excited about starting him, is really Amari Cooper. CeeDee Lamb, based on my initial projections, fell into the flex territory at 43. So where do you have these guys ranked for the wide receivers for the Cowboys?
Yeah, I'm in the same territory. I've got Amari Cooper as a low-end wide receiver, too. I've got him at 22 on the week, and then I've got CeeDee Lamb right now at 41.
Okay, good. We're right there. And no Michael Gallup here, right?
No, nope, don't go near him.
Nope. Dalton Schultz at all? Thinking about streaming him?
Low-end streaming conversation. He's going to see his 4 or 5 targets. He might reel in all of them, but it's not going to be for much yardage, and he doesn't really have much opportunity to score in this offense. So, yeah, he's a low-end streamer. I just think if you're looking at Dalton Schultz, you are most likely not in your playoff matchup. So, yeah, I think that he's just a desperation play, in my opinion.
Dalton Schultz or Jordan Reed in this game?
Oh, man, I really would not.
You're starting both of them, and you're going to the championship. If you have to, I'm starting Jordan Reed. I'll put that out there. You have to start one.
I really don't want to start either. I'll start Jordan Reed, but I've got both of them as like mid-range to low-end tight end twos.
Start all your tight ends in this game. Got it. Texans visiting the Colts. Are you still, we talked about it. Are you starting Deshaun Watson in this game?
I think that you can start him. I've got him as a low-end QB1, so it all depends on your other options. But yet, I do think that you can still start him. I just think that there are some better options available. But again, it all depends on who you have.
Yeah, he's 11th for me. Name me a few running backs who you would start over David Johnson in this game.
All of them?
No, name me a couple, just so that people get the lay of the land as to where around he falls.
Okay, so David Johnson right now in my rankings is at 25. I would start right now Melvin Gordon for sure, Kareem Hunt, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I actually legitimately might even start Gus Edwards above David Johnson this week.
Yeah, you're even higher than I am. Right now he's 30th for me. I'm starting like Damian Harris over him, J.D. McKissick. I don't want David Johnson right now. And maybe that'll move up as we get closer to Sunday, but right now, no, I just don't. It's not like he even gets the volume to, it's not like Zeke where we're like, well, I could probably pencil him in most weeks for 18, 20 touches. Like, right. I'm just not even going to see that from Johnson in this matchup.
The only concern is that Duke Johnson, I think, has been limited in practice.
Yep.
So there's the possibility that if Duke Johnson misses this game, then those targets that have been going to Duke could go to David. But yet, at the same time, I'm still not excited. The Indianapolis Colts are allowing 3.8 yards per rush attempt on the season, and let's not pretend that David Johnson is like a crazy efficient runner at this point of his career. So, I really don't want to go near him.
How about the receivers here? There is optimism that Brandon Cooks is going to play, but he's still been limited this week in practice. So I guess let's assume he plays. Who are you starting as a Texans wide receiver?
Yeah, if Brandon Cooks plays, I'll roll him into my lineup as a mid-range wide receiver 3. I'd probably play him above Marvin Jones. That would probably be right where he'd land. And then I think Kiki QT you can still get away with in that kind of same territory. I think that he's going to just continue to see targets in this offense, and he was able to find the end zone last week. And then Chad Hansen is an intriguing name. If you are in a deep league, you're looking for that kind of just flex option. Chad Hansen has actually been really stable. Has provided a safe floor the past 2 weeks that he's been in the lineup and some upside too. So I think you can get away with Chad Hansen as a low-end flex play with upside.
What if Brandon Cooks is out in this game? Does Hansen move even further up your board?
He would, yeah. If Cooks is out, Chad Hansen would probably land as like a high-end flex play, probably around like 39, 40, probably right in that territory of CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, his stock goes up without Cooks, but again, he did fine in the first matchup against Indianapolis when Cooks played the vast majority of that game. It's really the Will Fuller role that he is filling right now. So I do think that he is a guy who you can probably get away with, again, as a more as a borderline flex, as you've said, if Cooks does play. But if not, yeah, he becomes kind of the borderline wide receiver 3 in this one. For the Colts, I have Jonathan Taylor right now at RB6, and that feels too low to me. Where do you have him?
I have him right at 6 as well.
Yeah. I'm like, can I get him up? Can I move him up? Eckler's already locked in there, unfortunately, above him, so I can't.
Julio Jones is out.
You and I love, by the way, that we have obviously our notifications set. It's not a surprise that he's out, but we have our notifications set. So every time, and there are times, peek behind the curtain, because I think people really liked our little intro that we did on our last podcast together. There are so many times where Yates will message me privately in Slack to be like, check the tweet, or, somebody's out. Yates is always kind of up on the news. But anyway, Julio Jones is out. It's expected. And we covered that game as if he was out. So nice. No crazy news there. How about Nyheim Hines? Because we talked about it a little bit on the Wednesday show where Tags and I were like, yeah, you can get away with Hines. And you were like, why are people starting Nyheim Hines? What's going on? Where do you wind up with him in your rankings?
Yeah, it's kind of that situation where I'm like, I've got my office door just opened up. Landon apparently can open doors now.
Good. Is he in your office?
No, he isn't.
I'm all in favor of kids joining podcasts and live streams. You know that.
My wife just burst in like that video of the babysitter in the back of like the news. Okay, so anyway, you asked about Nyheim Hines. Yes. Nyheim Hines, I have him right now at 26, and I'm not feeling great about that. I could probably move him down as we go throughout the week. I just don't see it, right? Like I don't see the opportunity for significant touches in this game, and so J.D. McKissick will probably land above him, but we're in the territory now of guys like Damian Harris, Devin Singletary, Chase Edmonds, Jamal Williams, and at that point I would probably start Nyheim Hines.
Yeah, right now he's 22 for me. My guess is he's going to fall more like 24, but yeah, I mean, it's just such a good matchup, and I think they're not going to give Jonathan Taylor 75 touches. I think they'll work in Hines, and I think Jordan Wilkins is pretty much on the way out, so I think he'll get enough volume there, and they'll give it to him around the goal line. They have no hesitation around doing that, as crazy as that sounds. And we have reached the point in the season, particularly against Houston, which he owns, that T.Y. Hilton is a must-start wide receiver, essentially, correct?
I've got T.Y. Hilton at 17, Dan.
So do I, my friend. That is where we are. What about Michael Pittman here? I mean, he really hasn't produced in several weeks at this point. Are you starting him?
Yeah, he's taken a back seat to T.Y. Hilton here over the past few weeks. So I've still got Pittman as a starter. I've got him at 35. So I've got him one spot above Russell Gage, DJ Chark, Brandon Cooks. But I expect Brandon Cooks to move up as we go throughout the rest of the week. So yeah, I think Pittman's still in the start-worthy consideration. Yep. You're looking at the implied point total here from Indianapolis. Not all of them are going to go to Jonathan Taylor or T.Y. Hilton. So Pittman, again, talented player, hasn't produced here recently, but I'm still willing to start him.
How about Phillip Rivers then in a high implied point total game? I mean, he's 14th for me. You can get away with starting him if you absolutely had to.
Yeah, I've got him in that same territory. I've got him at 14 too, Dan.
Yes. Ooh, I like it. We're right in the same range. Let's go to the Bears visiting the Vikings. We know Dave Montgomery has made himself a must-start guy. Would you rather start Dave Montgomery or Mike Davis on Saturday?
I have David Montgomery at 9. I have Mike Davis at 10. So
that's exactly where I have them, Yates. Exactly.
Yeah, I'll go with Montgomery right now. But Davis, that matchup is just too good.
I know. It's really tough. That's right where he is. But again, 9 and 10, that's exactly where I have him. Allen Robinson is an obvious play, but we've got two other potential streamers for the Bears in this one. Mitchell Trubisky, who we've talked about a couple times already, and Cole Kmet. Start with Trubisky. Where does he fall? Would you prefer him or Phillip Rivers?
I have Trubisky at 13. I have Phillip Rivers at 14. The thing with Trubisky is that, and what breaks that little tie there, is that the Indianapolis Colts are implied favorites, right? So I think that they could easily, and again, Jonathan Taylor has number 1 overall running back upside this week. Yep. They could just easily lean on Jonathan Taylor, and that leaves Phillip Rivers with 25, pass attempts, which just isn't enough to get it done to push him into the top 12. With Chicago, they're actually underdogs in this game to the Minnesota Vikings, 3-point underdogs. So I think that you absolutely could see a potential shootout here where you're looking at 35, 38, 40 total pass attempts from Mitchell Trubisky. And with his rushing ability, that pushes him over the edge, where I think this game could stay a little bit more competitive throughout. And that's why I like Trubisky a little bit more than Rivers.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I do think that they're going to be chasing a little bit. I like the Vikings in this game. I think they're laying 3 or 3.5. Do think the Vikings are going to win, so I do get that. But I do, again, let's hammer the point home because this is one where we disagree, so we might as well let fantasy managers know about it. You're starting Trubisky over Jalen Hurts, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and I'm starting Hurts over Trubisky. So both guys are in the streaming conversation, but that is something where we differ a little bit. And the other one, Cole Kmet, I mean, look, he's getting the targets, for a tight end. He's bordering on a guy here like, I don't know. If these are the targets, this guy I'm just going to throw out there. So where do you have Kmet this week?
Yeah, looking at the other tight end options in ECR specifically, I mean, you're still looking at Jordan Reed, Hayden Hurst, Dalton Schultz up in that like 13, 14, 15 range. I've got Reed at 18, Hurst at 19, and Schultz at 20. And I've got Komet at 13 because I'm following the targets here. Like, he's just continued to be involved in this offense. Now, he might lose the touchdown to Jimmy Graham. But, yeah, I think that he can still be they're getting him the ball. They're making it a point to make sure that he's involved in this offense. So, yeah, I've got Komet at 13.
Yeah, I'm at 14. No issues with that. For the Vikings, of course, you're starting Dalvin Cook. You're starting both wide receivers here. No problem. I mean, you can't bench them, right? Jefferson or Thielen?
No, you can't bench them. I've got him as high-end or low-end wide receiver ones, high-end wide receiver twos.
Okay. What about Irv Smith if Kyle Rudolph is out again?
Say that again?
What about Irv Smith if Kyle Rudolph is out again?
Yeah, I was reading a tweet. If Irv Smith is, it just
said Alex Smith is going to try to practice. Yates,
that was
relax.
the one I was reading. So if Kyle Rudolph is out, then I will start Irv Smith. I've got him at tight end 15, so he's in the streaming conversation.
Yeah, I've got him at 13. So him and Cole Kmet, you can basically flip a coin with that. And Cousins, are you willing to stream at this point, or is he outside?
He's just outside that streaming conversation. I think you can find better options.
Seahawks visiting Washington. You were starting DK Metcalf. How about Tyler Lockett here? I mean, he basically nobody gives fantasy managers heartburn like deciding whether or not to start Tyler Lockett at this point. What are you doing with him?
I've got him at 25 right now.
Yeah.
And I could see the case to move him down even further.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think this is a trap game for Seattle.
Oh, I don't think it's a trap game, man. I mean, I think, Washington's legit. I think people are respecting Washington. I don't think that it's something. I mean, what are they, 5.5 point favorites, I believe? Yeah, I mean, you could easily see Washington winning this game outright. For sure. If Alex Smith plays, it's hard to see it with Dwayne Haskins playing, but that defense is legitimate. I mean, I have Lockett at 23, and the thing, though, that I've realized, Yates, I'm going down with the ship here on Tyler Lockett. And in that, I mean, you could make a legitimate case to say I'm ranking him as like a low-end wide receiver 3 based on his production, right? He's got that Arizona game and nothing else going on over the last 6 or 7 weeks. But I'm going down with the ship on Tyler Lockett just based on his history, based on the quarterback play, generally speaking. So he still is going to rank as that borderline wide receiver 2 for me. But there is risk here, and that Washington defense is absolutely legitimate for sure. How about Chris Carson? Are you good to go with him? I mean, he split work a little bit last week with Carlos Hyde. A lot of that was game script, but are you starting Chris Carson, no questions asked? Yeah,
I've got Carson at 15. So it depends on the other options, but I do think that you can absolutely start Chris Carson. I'm not expecting a split workload like the one we saw last week. You mentioned it. That was game script.
And not a great matchup for Russell Wilson, but if you roster Russell Wilson, you're starting Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I've got him in that same territory of Deshaun Watson, so it's like you've got to start him. But it depends on your other options.
I have him a little higher, I think. I have him 6th, and I have Watson more like 11th. But, yeah, I'm starting him. For Washington, again, I'm assuming Antonio Gibson is out. He hasn't been declared out, but I'm assuming that he's out. If so, what are you doing with J.D. McKissick in this one?
Yeah, I've got J.D. McKissick as a high-end running back 3. It was interesting the way they utilized him last week. They actually gave him just one less carry than Peyton Barber and only 4 targets. So they're utilizing him in kind of that Antonio Gibson role, just a little bit light. So I think you could see them start to feature him a little bit more, especially if it is Alex Smith. That is going to be he's not going to be as mobile as he has been, and it's not like he's the most mobile quarterback at this point of his career anyway, but I think that you could see even more checkdowns. So I'm willing to roll with J.D. McKissick. I've got him at 26 right now. I moved him above Nyheim Hines, but he does get a boost into that top 24 in full PPR formats. Yeah, I've got him at 27, so we're basically right there. Again, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. I don't know if it matters for our start-sit decisions on Terry McLaurin. Are you starting him regardless? I was thinking about this one earlier, and I was like, if Dwayne Haskins starts, I am not going to move Terry McLaurin. He'll be at wide receiver 15 for me. Yep, absolutely right. And how about Logan Thomas here? Are you willing to roll with him? Is he just in that amalgam of, starting potentially streaming tight ends? Logan Thomas is like 12 or 13 in ECR right now. I've got him at 11, and I could see moving him up even higher. I've got he's in the circle of trust at this point, just so involved in this offense. T.Y. Hilton
and Logan Thomas.
I know, man.
In the circle of trust. I knew it. He's 11 for me as well, so I am starting him again in this matchup. The Dolphins against the Patriots. So many question marks for the Dolphins, and you mentioned it earlier when I asked about Lynn Bowden. We don't know who's playing at running back right now. I mean, we know Matt Breida has been activated from the COVID-19 list. I haven't heard anything on Gaskin. I don't know if Savon Ahmed is going to play. I guess, Yates, anybody who is, I'll call them running back eligible to capture Lynn Bowden, who would you start who is running back eligible? Break down the various scenarios that we have at Miami.
Okay. So Myles Gaskin not expected to play. It sounds like he is going to miss this game again. Mm-hmm. He tested positive for COVID, so he I think is officially not officially, but is expected to probably miss this game. Savon Ahmed has been practicing in a limited fashion throughout the week, so there is a possibility that he comes back for this game and receives the majority of the carries when you're looking at DeAndre Washington and Matt Breida. So I think if Ahmed does play, I'm only looking at him as a high-end running back 3 or mid-range running back 3, probably in that same territory of Damian Harris, where I don't really know what his workload is going to be like. I don't know if he has much upside in this matchup. DeAndre Washington, Matt Breida, not looking their way, even if Myles Gaskin and Savon Ahmed are out. I really just don't want to. DeAndre Washington is simply just a fill-in option. That's not going to carry you to the championship, right? So, Lynn Bowden with Jakeem Grant getting in a limited practice. Devontae Parker, I doubt that he plays. Gesicki got in a limited practice as well. I doubt that he plays. So when you think of the Miami offense now, where it's Mac Hollins, Adam Shaheen, Durham Smythe, and Lynn Bowden, the ball's got to go somewhere. And in a full PPR format, if you are desperate for a running back, even if you see Savon Ahmed play, I think that you can roll out Lynn Bowden as a mid-range running back 3 in half PPR formats. That does get a boost up in full PPR formats. But it was so funny, Dan. I'm about to publish my weekly fantasy projections article as soon as we're done with the podcast here. And I got to this Miami game, and I've never done this season. I have not had to do this. I said check back Saturday morning for these projections because whatever I put up forward as far as my projections was going to be a complete guess as to who was even playing in this game. I need a little bit more information. So, it's the first time I've had to do this all season. This is a weird game. I'm just going to speak for the Patriots really quick. Sit all of them. I don't want to start any of them.
Excellent. That was a very good wrap-up. I basically agree with everything you said. My personal projection in this whole thing is that Devontae Parker is going to be the only guy who actually suits up. I don't think Grant is going to. I don't think Gesicki is. I'm not starting Devontae Parker going anywhere near him. I'm probably starting Lynn Bowden just because they're going to need somebody to get the ball to, particularly, as you mentioned, in PPR and half PPR leagues. The only guy on the Patriots who I would even remotely consider starting is Damian Harris. I have him ranked 28th, Yates. Very quickly, where do you have him ranked in your running back rankings?
I've got him at 29, but that is it's a gross 29.
Gross.
I don't want to play him.
Totally gross. I completely agree. I'm trying to avoid it. But again, if you absolutely had to, you could. He's the only guy on the Patriots who I'm considering. For the Jaguars, you're still starting James Robinson, right? I mean, you don't question it at this point. He's just in your lineup.
Yeah,
right?
Last week was interesting. They apparently said they wanted to get him some rest, which is why he was out of the game a little bit there. But I think that I've got James Robinson at 8 this week. I could see moving him down behind David Montgomery and Mike Davis, but because of the matchup here against Baltimore. But still, he's going to be a top 10 running back for me.
Yeah, and are you starting any other Jaguar here, Gardner Minshew, a quarterback?
I think that DJ Chark is really the only one that you should be looking at, and I've got Chark at 37. So, you can get away with him as a flex option because it's Gardner Minshew, but yet the matchup here, Chark should see plenty of targets, but yet the matchup is not great.
Yeah, I've got him at 38. But yeah, I mean, if you got it, you got it. For the Ravens, again, this is tough here because of the wide receivers. Again, my understanding is that Harbaugh said that he thought that Marquise Brown has a good chance to play on Sunday, assuming that he tests negative. So we can deal with that. If Marquise Brown does play in this game, are you willing to start him as a wide receiver 3?
Yeah, well, he was my start of the week in that on the Wednesday podcast, and then halfway through recording, we got news that he got.
He might be right though. That's right. It still might be there.
Yeah. So if he does play, absolutely, I think you got to start him in this matchup against Jacksonville's corners.
Yeah, I've got him at 30th right now. I'm ranking him assuming that he plays. And if we find out that he's not, then we'll do. If he's out, you are not. And if, Miles Boykin is out, I know you love, Duvernay, but you're not going near any wide receiver for the Ravens, are you?
That is correct. Yeah, okay. Duvernay I like as a long-term, but not this season.
Okay. Mark Andrews is an obvious start. Get him in the lineup. Please name me the quarterbacks you would start this week over Lamar Jackson.
It's not many. I've got Lamar Jackson at 3.
Yep,
so it is Aaron Rodgers at 1 and Patrick Mahomes at 2.
That is the correct answer. How about the running backs here? J.K. Dobbins, just fire him up. No questions asked?
No questions asked. I've got J.K. Dobbins at 12, and then I talked about it. I've got Gus Edwards at 24, Dan.
Nice. That is high for Edwards. Yeah, I'm at 31, but I could see him creeping up at least a couple of spots. I'm with you completely on Dobbins. I think you can let him go with 0 questions. Jets visiting the Rams, a little tongue-in-cheek here, but it's essentially start all Rams, bench all Jets, right? I mean, that's basically where we are essentially in this matchup.
It has to be. The Jets don't go. This Rams defense is playing lights out, like best in the NFL.
Legitimately is bench all Jets. Like if you have a Jet and you made it this far, you are deserve a trophy just for that, but B, you are avoiding them all. There's no getting cute. Anything you've got to do to avoid a Jet in this matchup, please do it. I am taking them, the Rams, laying the 16.5 points that I had at where I was, because this is just, it's very difficult to see anything. But for the Rams, I mean, you're starting, of course, Woods and Cooper Kupp. No questions asked. Tags was a little hesitant about Cam Akers. I believe you said initially you had him 11th, if memory serves. Is that where he's at?
I think I was the one who, I know I was the one who was hesitant. I think Tags had him at 11. I have him at 15.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
Or 16, excuse me. I have Cam Akers at 16. So because of the matchup here against the Jets are actually a pretty good run defense. Mm-hmm. You're betting on Sean McVay, giving him 25 plus touches again if the Jets are only allowing 3.9 yards per rush attempt on the season. So he needs that large workload. The Jets have only allowed 2 running backs to score rushing touchdowns since week 6. So it's like you're betting. There's a ton of things that you're betting against here with Cam Akers. Now, I still think that you can start him. Again, I've got him at 16, but ECR on Wednesday had him up at 10. So I'm not as bullish on Cam Akers.
Yeah, I still have him at 11. I get it. The Jets have a decent run defense. I just think the game script is going to be so out of whack in this one that he's going to get so many touches. I don't think they're going to shy away from him. I think he's got a good chance to find the end zone. But yeah, if you want to have a little hesitancy with him, that's fine, but you are starting him for sure. What about Goff as a streamer here? I mean, Goff, I feel like Jared Goff, this is like the Jared Goff game, right? Like, you look at it, you look at the matchup, you're like, this is where this is a great game for him. Jets don't get pressure, and then he's going to throw for 1 touchdodown and 3 interceptions and just leave everybody hung out to dry. With that said, I have him 12th. What about you?
I have him at 11. High-level analysis here. His previous matchups, or previous fantasy finishes here, he finishes in Week 10, quarterback 22, quarterback 3, quarterback 32, quarterback 7, quarterback 21. Looks like we're in for a top 10 finish.
Excellent. I love that analysis. And one of the Rams tight ends will be catching a touchdown this week against the Jets. I just don't know which one. You're not willing to start either Higbee, right, or Everett in this one.
I've got Higbee at 16 and I got Everett at 17. So it is but because it's like I legitimately just don't know which one it's going to be. But I know one of them's going to catch a touchdown. I just don't know which one it's going to be. So I think if you plug either of them in, it's a dart throw at best.
Just play DFS, make 2 identical lineups, do one with Tyler Higbee and one with Gerald Everett, and you'll be fine. For the Eagles visiting the Cardinals, again, where do you actually have Jalen Hurts ranked at your quarterback rankings this week?
I have him at 17. No, okay. I don't. I have him at 15.
Okay. All right, so we're not that far off. I have him at 13 then. And again, he's a guy you can trust, I think, relatively speaking, as a streamer in this one. And you're trusting Miles Sanders, though, right? Right back kind of in the circle of trust here.
Yeah, I've got him as a high-end running back, too, this week.
Okay. Starting anyone else on the Eagles?
Not if I can help it. Dallas Goedert. Right. Dallas Goedert, I think you can get away with as a low-end tight end one. I'm not as excited about him as I was earlier on this season. But yet, at the same time, based on the tight end position, based on his role, and the targets that he saw last week, I think you can still get away with starting Dallas Goedert.
All right, you are starting Kyler Murray and you're starting DeAndre Hopkins. Let's just talk about Kenyan Drake, who I assume you're starting, but I want to put a couple of names out there for you to choose between, if that's cool with you. Would you rather start Kenyan Drake or Chris Carson?
I have Chris Carson 2 spots above Kenyan Drake.
Kenyan Drake or J.K. Dobbins?
J.K. Dobbins for me.
Kenyan Drake or DeAndre Swift?
DeAndre Swift.
Okay, so Drake is what, in the low teens?
17.
I mean, high teens,
17
whatever.
for me.
Yep, okay, he is 16 for me, so we are right there. Let's go to the Saints visiting the Chiefs. I don't know if you know this, Yates, but Drew Brees is going to start.
What?
It's true. Can you believe that? Brand new information. Okay, so you've got Brees. Okay, let's just say this. Let's say you've gotten here to this point.
That was a solid Friends quote, by the way.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I knew you'd get it. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
Let's say that is one of my favorite gifs, by the way. Okay, if you have, let's say you had Brees and you picked up Taysom Hill and you've been riding Taysom Hill as a quarterback, okay? Are you starting Brees against the Chiefs in his first game back in this matchup? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit because I know we haven't been thinking about that. What do you think?
I actually was going through while you were rambling on about something. I went through and and put in my quarterback rankings for Drew Brees. I took Taysom Hill out and plugged in Drew Brees. I've got Drew Brees roughly right now. I need to look into it a little bit more, but I've got him at 19.
Okay. That was super mean, but very accurate. Very accurate. Yeah, I don't know exactly where I'm going to wind up with him. My guess is a little higher than 19. But I don't think I'm going to be able to. I mean, you might have to, of course, because this you maybe have been relying on Taysom Hill the whole time, and backup quarterbacks are gone. But I have a feeling there's a lot of guys out there like the Rivers and the Hurts.
Yeah,
maybe even Trubisky. I might rely on, but he's going to fall probably in the mid-teens for me as well. So what does this do to your ranking of Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas? I mean, Kamara, as much as again you finally decided to put him back in your starting lineup as you said earlier, but Kamara he bumps up from Drew Brees being back in, right?
It has to. I will probably put him at RB3 on the week.
Okay. And how about Michael Thomas? I mean, he was getting the targets with Taysom Hill as well. Yep. Does he bounce up, though? I mean, I had him 12th coming in.
I have him at 15. So the concern here with Michael Thomas is that he hasn't scored a touchdown this entire season, which sucks. So he's seeing the targets. I think that he's bringing a safe floor, but yet for him to finish in that top 12, he needs to find the end zone. I just don't feel super comfortable with Drew Brees' first week back. I don't feel comfortable about that.
Okay, how about Jared Cook? He'd been a little more involved, and of course with Taysom Hill, it was a little bit like, oh God, we were avoiding him. Then he kind of started working himself back into the circle of trust. Is his stock up, down, or the same with Drew Brees here?
It went up for me. I've got Jared Cook at 14 this week, so I think that he has an excellent chance of finding the end zone. And in this range, that's kind of what you want, right? You want the guys who can find the end zone and push their way up into the top 12. I'll look at Jared Cook if I'm in need of a tight end.
Yeah, crazy, man. Crazy. Week 15, everything's going nuts. Chiefs, you're starting Patrick Mahomes, of course. You are starting Tyreek Hill, of course. You are starting Travis Kelce, of course. Are you starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire, of course?
Not of course. I still think that you can start him. I've got him at 23. So I think that you absolutely can still get away with starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but this matchup is really difficult for opposing running backs. Yeah. And we need to see CEH get 20-plus touches again. And even though he did see, 21 total touches last week, still only finishes the RB20. Just the touchdown and scoring opportunities are not there when you have guys like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. So I think that, CEH, you can start him as a safe floor play, but yet I'm not super, super excited about him.
We're going to talk about the Giants and the Browns next, so let's put it right there. Would you rather start Edwards-Helaire or Kareem Hunt?
I would start Kareem Hunt.
Would you rather start Edwards-Helaire or Wayne Gallman?
Got Wayne Gallman 5 spots above CEH.
Wow, that's this is one where I have Hunt, Edwards-Helaire, and Wayne Gallman back to back, right at the borderline RB2 range. It's not going to end up there, I don't think, because I'm going to need to refine this. But yeah, that sounds about right. Edwards-Helaire, as I look into this, man, if I roster him, I'm probably starting him because he's in that range. But I really don't feel great about it in this one. But man, now I'm really looking forward to watching this game. Browns visiting the Giants. Again, we know Chubb is starting. And again, so basically you have Kareem Hunt as a borderline RB2 in this one?
Yeah, I've got him at 20.
Okay. And you like Jarvis Landry here, right? I mean, I know Bradbury's out. I assume Bradbury was going to probably shadow Higgins.
Yeah.
Right. But you like Landry in this one?
Yeah, I do. Landry still brought a safe floor last week. You just saw the touchdowns go to Higgins, or the touchdown go to Higgins. So I think, you can still look at Jarvis Landry as a low-end wide receiver too, in my opinion. The matchup here against Xavier McKinney. McKinney's missed some time this season. His natural position is safety. He played all over the field at Alabama, but yet Jarvis Landry, with how refined of a route runner he is, he's soaking up targets in this offense. I've got him at 24. Mm-hmm.
And what about Higgins? Do you look at Higgins now with James Bradbury out?
I think that you can. It's kind of one of you. I think you're going to see Darnay Holmes, rookie corner out of UCLA, line up on Rashard Higgins. So I think that in that situation where you're looking for the flex play who has some upside, and you need to swing for the fences because you had Keenan Allen, I think that if Rashard Higgins is sitting there on your waiver wire, which there's a very good chance that he is, I think that you can pivot to looking at Rashard Higgins over someone in that lower, flex play that doesn't come, or flex territory that doesn't come with much upside. And I think that Rashard Higgins has an excellent chance of soaking up targets in this one and finding the end zone.
You're not streaming Baker Mayfield, though, here, are you?
He's in the conversation, but I've got him at 18. He's been playing really, really well here lately, Dan. So I think the matchup isn't fantastic, but neither was Baltimore. So right. I think that if you are, let's say that you had Taysom Hill and you were relying on him for this week, because all signs pointed to him playing, and Baker's sitting there on your waiver wire, I think that's actually a fine pivot option.
I think Baker's kind of like the last of the streamable options at this point, right? And that's the thing. For this week, there were like 20 quarterbacks who I was like, I can get away with starting him in this matchup and feel okay about it. So I think Baker does fall into that, but on the low end for me. For the Giants, we are not sure right now who is starting at quarterback for the Giants. I mean, Daniel Jones is practicing. There's some optimism after he has both the ankle and the hamstring, but it might almost be better if he didn't, just because he was so limited. So I'm not sure how much it matters. Again, you're starting Wayne Gallman. You mentioned it. You're good to go with him as an RB2, right?
Yep.
Okay. How about Evan Ingram here? Does it matter who's a quarterback?
It really doesn't matter. Again, the tight end position is kind of just keeping him in that low-end tight end one conversation. So, I think you can still get away with Evan Ingram, even if it's Colt McCoy.
Start any Giants wide receiver?
No. This is going to be an interesting game, though. Have you seen the storylines here? Jason Garrett's out with
positive
COVID test.
Yes.
You have Freddie Kitchens calling plays here against the Cleveland Browns, and then you have Colt McCoy potentially at quarterback. So this is going to be a fun game to watch. I think Cleveland's just going to try to pound them into the ground.
Nothing like a revenge game narrative. Let's finish it up with the Steelers visiting the Bengals. What are you doing with the Steelers? It used to be so fun to rank the Steelers wide receivers. Now I despise it. What are you doing with them in this matchup?
I wrote up in my weekly article, I said, just a few weeks ago. Remember a few weeks ago when it was so easy to be able to say start all of them? At this point, I have huge concerns with all these guys. We're at the point now where Juju Smith-Schuster is the safest Steelers wide receiver to roll out there, where 2 weeks ago we would have said, don't start Juju Smith-Schuster. So, I think I've got Deontay Johnson at 25 right now, and then I've got Juju at 26. I've got Claypool further down, man. I'm a little bit more hesitant on Claypool. I talked about him as my sit of the week earlier on the Wednesday podcast. So I'm concerned here with Claypool and James Washington playing above him. You're relying on Claypool to be able to reel in that deep touchdown. It absolutely could happen. You absolutely could see, Chase Claypool be inserted back into the lineup, but it is no guarantee. With Deontay Johnson, you have the concerns of if he plays, he should soak up targets, but what happens if he drops another freaking pass and he's benched again? I don't want that in week 15 of my fantasy football playoff. I don't want, so it's just kind of a ranking of, I'm putting him here because he has such a wide range of outcomes. He could finish as the wide receiver 12, or he could finish as the wide receiver 60, I just don't know. So it's all going to depend on your other options and who you have available and who you feel comfortable with. But man, I'm not excited about any of these guys, really.
Yeah, I'll put it into context. For me, I have Deontay at 25, Juju at 28, Claypool at 36. I love Chase Claypool. I wish I could rely on him, but I really can't. Are you starting James Conner if he plays? Are you starting Benny Snell if James Conner sits?
I do not think James Conner plays. If he somehow does, I really would put him in that territory of David Johnson. Really, honestly, and I would prefer to look elsewhere. If Benny Snell is the main guy, I think you can bump him up slightly higher than that. Probably put him just above someone like Nyheim Hines just because of the matchup. But yeah, he's still just a high-end RB3 for me.
I love the analysis. We're right there. And how about Eric Ebron? Firmly circle of trust at this point?
Yeah, you got to plug him in based on the matchup. Cincinnati allowing the second most fantasy points to opposing tight ends this season. So yeah, you just got to play Eric Ebron.
How about Big Ben?
You can get away with him as a high-end QB2. Hasn't been as efficient here recently, but then you kind of go, okay, is that the receiver's fault? Which is most likely the case. So I think with Ben, yeah, you absolutely can because of the matchup. And if the running game is doing next to nothing, then you've got to throw the ball. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so I think you can get away with starting Big Ben.
Are you starting any Bengal?
Not if I can help it. I'm not going near the run game. Doesn't look like Joe Mixon's coming back this week. I would be surprised if he comes back this season at all. And then, man, the wide receivers. T. Higgins, I think you can get away as like a high-end flex play. But it comes with virtually no upside. Tyler Boyd is even lower than that for me.
Okay, me too. I've got Tyler Boyd at 41. Just no Bengals. None of this at all. All right, Yates, our penultimate show for Fridays. I love it. Good job, man. We bombed through all the games as quickly as we could. Worked great. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Yeah.
Dan, is this our last Friday show of the
season? Oh, my goodness. You're right, because next week is Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, but I'm still going to call our Wednesday show, which I think we're going to do all the matchups, but we're going to have tags involved, sort of a mega show as our final Dan and Kyle in the morning, even though we will probably tape it in the afternoon, and even though it will involve tags, okay? So this is technically our last Friday show. Yates, it has, I would say it's been a pleasure, but I try to make sure I'm honest with all of our listeners on this podcast. So it has been a work obligation that I have not despised at all during this entire thing. You did a great job, man. By the way, we did introduce that this was a new show that we did this year. I hope you guys liked it. You can give us feedback if you didn't, if you want us to change things up, something next year for sure. But I felt like the matchup preview, Yates, going through each one kind of worked for us. Did you feel like it worked, generally speaking?
Yeah, absolutely. I know we had to fly through a lot of these, but I think that we gave some really actionable fantasy advice. And of course, like Dan mentioned, we'd love to hear what you think we can improve upon, or if you liked it, like the format, anything like that, hit us up on Twitter.
Absolutely. In the meantime, enjoy like 6 hours of rest from the time you listen to this before you get ready for some Saturday football. If you started Keenan Allen, don't worry about it. Get your best lineup out there. You've still got a chance, I promise you. And in the meantime, Tags and I will talk to you next on our Sunday night recap show. I will talk to you then.
Thank you for tuning into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Fantasy Pros so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.